Welcome to Rounding the Bases, the podcast about culture and leadership with a baseball twist, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Enterprise Bank and Trust was founded by entrepreneurs with the core focus of serving privately owned small and medium-sized businesses who have a story to tell. Enterprise Bank's commitment is to listen, learn, and guide clients to a lifetime of financial success. Enterprise Bank, together, there's no stopping you. My name is Joel Goldberg, coming to you from the Kansas City Audiovisual Studios. They create engaging spaces. Check them out at kcav.com. I can connect you to Alan Landever over there. Phenomenal guest today here on the podcast, and one that has his hands in a lot of different endeavors. He just changed jobs, and he's taking on a very important role at a very big company, a very influential company here in Kansas City at Barkley. So I am happy right now to bring in the new Director of Diversity and Inclusion for Barkley, Adam Miller, who is fired up and ready to go, and one of my favorite guys in town because he's high energy and he is always bringing it. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And no, folks, I do not drink coffee. This is all water in here. So you don't want to see me on coffee. It's like feeding a gremlin after midnight. It gets wild.
I work with Rex Hudler and other people like that, where it's like, don't ever have coffee because the energy is already there. And there's a discussion to have there. I mean, Adam, to me, you're one of those guys that is a little bit of that Renaissance man, because you've got your hands in all kinds of really cool endeavors when we're talking about wine and speaking multiple languages and all of that. But that's the good stuff, right? But
yeah.
You also, I think, in your young career, have really made it a mission to help people. And so for many years, you did that in the education world. Now you have pivoted. Tell me about that.
Yeah, man. It's funny. Many years ago, I applied for the Obama Fellowship, and one of the application components was describe what you do in 10 words or less. And the phrase that I used was uniquely positioning people to be the best version of themselves. And so that's really what I'm passionate about. And that has been a through line for all of my work with Teach for America, the wine company that my friends and I co-own, and then, of course, with my time at Barkley. Regarding that transition, it was a tough one for me. I have a lot of strong ties, a lot of strong friendships with Teach for America. The work is meaningful and it's tireless work, but it's meaningful work. And I loved it. And but the opportunity to be able to shape how brands have a posture towards diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also shape the mindsets of the partners that are creating kind of these campaigns and these brand pushes is an opportunity that I felt like I couldn't pass up in terms of having a broader impact in communities beyond even the Kansas City area. Repping out Kansas City right now. So I just had to take it, man. And I've loved it so far. This is week 3. And I am drinking from a fire hose. I'm telling you what, it's great though. I love it. It's great.
Well, for those that are watching, you'll see Adam decked out in his Kansas City gear and the Jimi Hendrix portrait or painting behind him. If you're listening, you could still hear the energy. And it was interesting, Adam, because you and I have known each other for a couple of years and have gotten to know each other better. And so I reached out a few weeks ago because I was thinking, the guests that I like on the show are ones that people can learn from. And whether that is learning knowledge, whether that is being inspired, whether that is sharing really important stories. And I feel like you checked all of those boxes. And so it was really along the lines of Teach for America and during this pandemic. And then you say, well, I'm leaving and I got a new job. I'm like, oh, what do you got? Director of Diversity and Inclusion at Barkley. I'm like, oh, that's really relevant right now. That is just as important, if not more so, maybe equally so in a different way than what you were doing at Teach for America. So tell me about that, because I think that the diversity and inclusion discussion, one that we've had many times on this podcast and will continue to have, is more important than ever. Perhaps it has come to the forefront because of some of the racial injustice and social inequities that have been exposed that were always there. Tell me about why this is so important to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a firm believer that representation matters. That was true in my time in education. You want to be able to see educators, teachers, principals, leaders who exhibit the same lines of difference and identity markers that you possess. Similarly, when you think about brands that are marketing toward your particular demographic, you want to hope and pray that whoever is in the room shaping those brands and that messaging, at least some of the people in that space have shared identity with you that can actually speak truth to that and not tokenize kind of your lines of difference and what makes you unique and special, right? When I thought about that, I wanted to make sure that I was not only leaning into that intention, but joining an enterprise that had already been in this work and wasn't kind of like a Johnny come lately to this experience. Thinking through Barkley and my work with them, this has been an intention that they've leaned into for the last couple of years. Their CEO, Jeff King, and I serve on a board for the Brand Lab, which is an organization that fosters creative inroads of creativity for people across various lines of difference into the creative industry, particularly with BIPOC people of color. And so it's not like something where it was a knee-jerk reaction to what was going on in our social climate. This had already been going on, and it just happened to be that the position was created. And I went through the process. It was a rigorous one, which I'm thankful for. That means that they were trying to make sure they got the right person for the gig. Let's finger crossed, hope they did. And that's landed me where I'm at. And like I said, representation matters. I think divergent thought matters. If everybody's drinking the same Kool-Aid and it's all the same flavor, you're not getting anything new. And I'm really trying to push that narrative within the advertising industry, particularly because it's about 70% white in terms of associates with ad agencies. And I think that's just a little bit too high. We need some more diverse thought, particularly if you're marketing toward a demographic in particular of people of color, which is $1.4 trillion in buying power annually, yet 70% of the people that are marketing towards us don't identify with our demographic. So I think it's just very important, again, to have representation to make sure there's cultural sensitivity in pitches and approaches to campaigns.
I think it's interesting too, because we're starting to see more of that representation, or at least an effort at that. You turn on any television commercial right now, and there's a good chance that you're going to see more people of color than not. And I think about this some, I think, okay, is this just checking a box? Because if it is, it's not authentic, it's not real.
Right.
Or is it saying, hey, we want to be more inclusive, we want to open this up and be better represented? Because what I have found is, even as I have had more of these discussions on this podcast, and not that every discussion is, that suddenly the guests that are coming onto my show, whether the intent is to talk about diversity or something completely unrelated, the guests have become more diversified, just because you open yourself up to who you're talking to and who you're meeting. And I think, and I'm going to oversimplify this, but I'm curious your take on it, that when you're willing to ask why, instead of sitting there and talking about, oh, there's a bunch of looting going on, or oh, this, or oh, that, how about asking why something is happening, or why people feel the way they do? Because you might actually learn something.
Yeah. I think so often people with social paradigm shifts, such as the one we're experiencing right now, they oftentimes want to talk about the symptom rather than the illness, right? And addressing the symptoms not gonna cure us, right? And I think the underbelly of what our country represents is that we were built off the backs of slaves, and I think there's this entrenched systemic racism that permeates so many industries, vocations, experiences that sometimes are more salient than others, sometimes more recognizable, but it's the ones that are occulted, the ones that are tougher to pinpoint, that are the challenges that we face right now. And I think we're at this pivotal tipping point where people are starting to recognize that and are willing to check their own biases. I identify as a person of color, but even I have biases that I have to oftentimes check myself. I think that's an important message to relay as well, that nobody's perfect. Nobody's got it figured out. But the accountability point comes when we recognize that in one another and challenge each other to be better. And that's really what this comes down to. Just be better, just be a good human, and understand that our differences are what make us great. And they should not only be accepted, but appreciated as such. We all gain from the collective genius, but also the collective difference that's present within all of us.
And you think about the world of advertising, which you're now in, and Barkley is a powerhouse here in Kansas City and around the country. And I'm not saying they're this, and I know a lot of the people over there are amazing people, but when you think of the advertising and the marketing industry, you think about, well, I think about the stereotypical Mad Men and that show and that era. Now we're many, many, many years from that generation.
Yeah.
We've come a long ways, but how far do we have to go?
We have come a long way. I think back then there was less focus. If you want to focus on like the Mad Men times, there was less focus on diversity within the industry, just because it just wasn't even like something that was sought after, in terms of like lines of difference being with BIPOC and your representation in that regard. The diversity then was like gender, right? It was like we don't have any women in the industry that are copywriters or that are creative directors, et cetera. And so what's cool about that show is that you watch the ascension of one particular woman on that show that gets all the way to the top of her game, and finally gets that respect that she deserves. And that's when the show kind of like wraps up and has its finale. Not to do any spoilers for y'all. Sorry about that if I did. But looking now, that's only one step, right? We have the gender representation and diversity within the creative industry. That's fantastic. But now we have to take it further. There are so many identity markers and lines of difference that have to be present within the ad space. And I'm not even just talking about BIPOC. I'm talking about religious belief. I'm talking about sexuality, orientation. I'm talking about ability. Like all of these different identity markers have to coalesce and exist in one space. And so, if this is a marathon run, we're on mile like 3. We got a long way to go, but keep your pace, keep it strong, keep the stride tight. And we have a lot of work to do, but I'm energetic around the fact that now finally these industries, these advertising agencies are putting money behind their efforts and not just paying lip service, but actually creating programming and structure and hiring roles at, mid-level to senior level to make sure to safeguard that experience for others. Culture is the most important thing in any workplace. When people think about diversity and inclusion and in my role, they think, oh, Adam is about retention and recruitment. And I'm like, the order is a little wrong there. The order of operations is never recruitment, retention, and culture. It's culture, retention, and recruitment. If you create the culture, people are going to want to stay. Now they're retained. And if they're retained, you don't have to go out and create all these robust referral programs and tell your friends to come over. Like the reputation will speak for itself. And a latent effect of that is that you're going to get high talented individuals wanting to knock at your door and be a part of what you're doing. And so that's kind of how I'm reverse engineering the industry and trying to flip it on its head a little bit. And so hopefully this little shakeup is going to end up well for Barkley and other ad agencies across the country.
I love it. And it always begins with culture every single time. And that's true with every company, with every sports team, whatever it is. When you could start there, then you can make an impact with so much else. What were your aspirations growing up? Because you have one of those resumes that reads like Einstein. And with all of your studies, let me read this one off from his LinkedIn page. No, I'm not going through all of it, but Kansas State University, bachelor's degree in Hispanic Studies, Hispanic and Latin American languages, literatures, and linguistics. So Spanish National Honor Society, studied abroad. Now you're making this huge impact in diversity, inclusion. What were your aspirations as a kid?
I wonder if she's listening to this right now. There's this girl that I grew up with named Paula Ramirez, and I had a crush on her. She's from Venezuela. And I told myself I was like Hitch before Hitch existed. I told myself, I was like, you know what? I'm going to learn Spanish. I'm going to ask this girl out on a date. I'm going to be super smooth. I'm going to get her. We're going to get married. It's going to be great. And so I started studying the language when I was in 7th grade. And I was 13 years old. And the woman speaks English like perfectly. And so some other guy just went up in English and asked her out. It wasn't even smooth, just like, hey, you want to go out? And she's like, yeah. And so they dated for like the longest time. It was like 4 years. And that's a long time at that age. So I missed my mark. But what I realized is that I had this natural aptitude and an acuity for acquiring languages. And I just kind of went with it. I realized that, my interest in her had a shifting and a changing of the guard from like, the less from about the woman herself and the culture that's woven within her. And I just fell in love with that culture and just understanding different cultures and appreciating them and that kind of like, birthed this kind of necessity and this urge to travel the world, experience different cultures. And, from there, I studied abroad in Spain for about 6 months. I was awarded a Fulbright scholarship when I was about 25, lived in Argentina for a year, drank a lot of wine, ate a lot of steak. It was terrible. And since then I got to meet some cool people like Joel. Hey, I actually taught Joel some Spanish lessons. One time, fun fact. I don't know if he's any good, but
no, well, you were good. I wasn't good.
But that's the thing for me, man. I love culture, and I realized that at a very young age, my passion was people from all walks of life, and I didn't want something as like language to be a barrier for me getting to know people. And so I speak a little Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese, and I speak Spanish fluently as well. I'm looking to learn Arabic and Farsi. That's the next step for me. I really want to just like have the ability to interact with everyone that I possibly can before my time here is done. And that's my passion. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but that's kind of where it came from.
No, it does. I get to have the coolest people on the show. It's great. And another avenue that Adam has pursued, or an interest, is Big Brothers Big Sisters. He's on the board of directors there.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Because it just gives me a little there. He's got a mug that he's holding up that says Big Brothers Big Sisters. It was just a good segue for me to remind everyone that I'm raising money for their Big Most Wanted campaign. And so if anyone wants to make a donation,
do it.
You could do it. You could text J Gold to 44321. J Gold to 44321.
Can I be the first one? Should I just do this right now? Let me just.
You do that while I get us ready for our baseball themed questions, brought to you by Kissick Construction, trusted team, reliable partner. Check them out at kissickco.com. So while Adam is making his donation on my behalf to Big Brothers Big Sisters, which was very nice. See, I'm tap dancing and stalling right now because I actually think that he's doing that as we speak. You could always do it later if you want.
Yeah, I'm happy because I've got the number already. Go ahead.
You got to focus. What's the biggest home run that you've hit in your young career?
Oh man, biggest home run. Man, I'm always want some of them like just keep the line moving. I'm not even trying to swing for the fences.
That's right. But you've hit some home runs, even if you weren't trying.
I've hit some home runs. It's tough to choose one. I would say the biggest home run is starting, this company, this wine company our friends and I have. My friends founded it, and I was an early adopter and came in kind of at the ground level. Casey Mack, look at that nice plug. My man Joel got me.
CaseyMack.com.
CaseyMack.com. And what's cool about it is that we have an import side as well that our co-founder Blair runs, where we import wine from Spain and South Africa, and that's fantastic. We love having a wide portfolio of 150 different wines that you can import, but Casey Mack is unique in that it is the wine that we created, us, the owners, and we worked alongside a wine enthusiast 40 under 40 winner this past year named Chris Christensen. He lives out of Sonoma, California, the Sonoma area. And it's a sparkling wine in a can that is music themed. And what's cool about it is that it gives back to communities through wine sales. And so our 4-packs, if you go online to our website, they're $25. It's about a bottle and a third per 4-pack, so a good amount of wine, and $3 of that from that total cost goes straight to the Harmony Project Kansas City, which sustains music programs in the urban core and allows kids to have a creative avenue and a creative outlet to express themselves, learn about art and music, and just be creative. I think creativity is one of the greatest skill sets one can acquire and lean into, and it's something that is indiscriminate, and anyone can do it. And so we want to foster that and give back to our community through our wine. And so that's been the biggest home run, is that, we design the cans ourselves. We have them in some of the locally owned restaurants and bars in Kansas City. Your Crossroads Hotel, Percheron. We have it at the new Kansas City Hotel. We have it at Barkley. And it's like hearing your song on the radio, man. You walk in and you hear that and you see some. So, we have a long way to go, but it's so cool to just have the support of the city and people knowing, like, we're not in this to like turn a quick buck and get rich. We're in this to have a conduit to give back to the community that has afforded us so much opportunity. And so for me, that's the biggest home run. And I'm hoping to get our wine in the Royals Kauffman Stadium. Hey, quick plug.
If anyone is watching, there you go.
There you go.
The website, by the way, for those that are listening that can't see it up on the screen, it's kayceemac.com, KAYCEEMAC.com, KAYCEEMAC.com. And so check them out there. How about a swing and a miss? Something that you missed on, and what did you learn from it?
Oh man, I was that's a good question. This is a big miss, and I might get some flack for this, but we'll see. It was the Teach for America, so I no longer work there, so I can't get fired. So I guess I can kind of say this would be okay.
Sure.
So part of my role with that job, very high level, quickly, was I recruited and retained top flight Teach for America educators across the world to come to Kansas City and serve here for an additional 2 years. In addition to that, I was in charge of their professional development, specifically around problem-solving strategy. And so we had them engage with prominent C-suite executive leaders from a wide swath of industries, and they would posit dilemmas and challenges that they're currently going through that they were not able to identify the solution. And so our teachers were, charged with breaking up into small groups, devising a plan of action, and then addressing these various challenges that our leaders have. The hope is that after 2 years of this routine development, they have a 360 prismatic viewpoint on how to problem solve issues. And the leaders gain from, hopefully one of these, raised kind of offerings around a solution is actually a viable one that they can apply to their practice. And so they get to network and meet these leaders and that sort of thing. And so that's what we're pitching to these teachers. And so when we're doing the recruitment process, we would travel to large metropolitan cities where there's a critical mass of talented educators. And so in this particular example, we went to New York. And I remember we went to one of my favorite restaurants out there called Mercer Kitchen. And I had this whole list of people that I thought would be fantastic that I pulled from our internal database and sent them an email and said, hey, we're going to buy you dinner. Just come out, hang out, and hear about what we're doing. If it's something that's of interest to you, we could talk further about that. But at the very least, you as an educator deserve a good meal, and we're going to pay for that. And so we had these teachers show up, and I didn't password protect the Eventbrite. And so it's in New York City. This is Eventbrite. And so we have 15, 20 people show up, and we didn't want to delay the meal. So everybody goes around and they place their orders, and people are ordering steaks and, pasta dishes and whatever. We're like, hey, just, try to keep it within some semblance of per diem, but order what you want, go crazy, have fun, get a glass of wine, do your thing. And as we're going around and I'm asking everyone, where do you teach? What's your subject? The first couple people are like, oh yeah, I teach math and science at such and such school, PS 13, whatever. And then we start getting to some of these other people, and this guy's like, oh, I don't teach, actually. I work in a factory and I pack boxes. And other guys are, well, I work at an ad agency and, just saw this thing on Eventbrite, thought I'd show up. And we went down the line, and 8 or 9 people had no connection to education at all. They just found the Eventbrite, took it upon themselves to show up, eat a free meal. And my boss is sitting right next to me. This is my first event. And I'm like, sure as heck, I'm getting fired. This is it. This is my last meal, the last supper, and I'm going to do it. And it was a swing and a miss big time. But ultimately, I figured out how to work out some of the kinks there, and ultimately got to a successful program. And so that, is kind of leads to one of my second home runs, because now that I've stepped out of the role, the program has reached such prominence that it's being scaled at a national level beyond Kansas City. So that's exciting to know that, Teach for America is taking a creative and dynamic approach to reappraising the field of education and championing our teachers that need it right now more than just about anybody. And so it's cool for me to look back and be like, I started that. And it's growing without me, and it's self-sustaining. And we came from a lot, started from the bottom, but in the words of Drake, now we're here. So it's cool.
Well done. And some people got to eat for free. So good for them too.
We fed the masses
on that one. Hey, you got to take care of the people. Last baseball theme question, small ball. What are the little things that add up to the big things for you?
It's kind of a 2-part thing for me, man. I would say, one is relationship building, take the coffee meeting, take the happy hour. I know it seems like you're spending a lot of money and that it won't pay dividends or ROI later in life, but it will. I think about, me and you met over, what was it? We were getting suits made, weren't we?
We were getting suits made.
We were getting suits made. And I remember thinking I don't have the money for this suit, but I'm going to do it anyway. And then I met you, and now you're like the homie. It's great. Now I'm on this podcast, and it's you
never know. You never know.
And so it's less about small ball. It's more run down every ball. like run down every ball with full speed. And that's how I operate. And like, while you have the energy and the tenacity, chase down every dream and ball that has hit your way, and network and relationship build and get to know people. Like, don't always have an agenda. Just come in and just like wonder, like open-minded, like, who is this person? And where can I find common grounds with this individual that I'm speaking with? That's the most important thing. And then later in life, all that will come. If you come with a genuine, authentic approach to getting to know people, they will remember that. They will internalize that. And when opportunities come up to tap someone on the shoulder for a great role or a board service opportunity or whatever, they're going to think about you as someone that is genuine and that is doing the right things, or at least trying to. And you'll be top of mind for a lot of people. So I think that's one thing that I would say.
I could not agree with you more. It's so perfectly said. And I would say, don't even go in with an agenda, period. The agenda will take care of itself.
Absolutely.
If it's meant to be. And so, yes, you are speaking my language, which leads me to my 4 final questions as we round the bases. The first question, you can go quickly on these. Well, the first one is going to be, speaking about language. You did reference that you attempted to teach me Spanish. So in a couple sentences in Spanish, tell our listeners and viewers how awful I was. You can say
bueno, quiero decir que él trato mucho de aprender el lenguaje, pero de vez en cuando hay momentos que el cerebro no está funcionando tanto y uno no se puede comunicar como quiere. Y eso es lo que pasó con Goldberg. No hay drama, él es buen chico, pero su especialización es otra cosa. Entrevistas, digo.
Translation, he was terrible. That's what he said. I think I heard a little something about
he's good at other things, like interviewing people. That's really what I said. So
I actually could be fine if I was willing to put in the effort, but I'm clearly not. Okay, I just wanted Adam to really show off with his Spanish there. Second question.
That was on the spot, man. I was like not ready. That's
part of you, though. Second question, as we round the bases, outside of the KC Mac brand, what's your go-to wine?
Go-to wine. It is technically not within our portfolio, but we do broker the wine when it comes to us. There's this wine from a guy that is born in Wichita, Kansas, but lives out in California, and his wine brand is called Flint Knoll. It is one of the most fantastic brands of wine you will ever have. And he makes a Pinot Noir, he makes a Cab. His Cab is my favorite. His Cab is called Royal Appointment. It's I believe it's 85% Cab, 15% Merlot. I like Cabs and Merlots a lot, and Syrah is one of my favorite ones as well. Anything from South Africa, super dope wine. Give it a try. Just get out of your comfort zone. Like, that's the cool thing about wine. There's like thousands of varietals, and people are always like, I'm drinking a Pinot or a Cab, and I'm like, okay, those are great, but there's there's Pinot Gris, there's there's Beaujolais from France that I really like a lot. It tastes like cherry pie crust, which is really cool. You're like, I want that right now.
Yeah, well, let's go. Let's drink that.
Albarino is a white grape from Spain. Super good. Has a little hint of creaminess to it that is a good mouthful for you. I like all wines. I love all my children equally, Joel. Don't make me pick, man.
No, I love all my kids. Your kid. I understand. And what great kids you have.
I do.
Third question, as we round the bases, percentage-wise, just guessing here, or an estimate, what percentage of the time are you not the best chess guy in the room?
Right now, you told me to wear whatever.
No. You're still better dressed than me. You still look better. What percentage of the time are you not the best looking guy in the room?
That percentage used to be higher. I've been hanging out with Tom Paolini a lot, and nobody's beating that guy. I mean, Tom Paolini is the most sharp-dressed man I've literally ever met in my life. But I would say
it is his profession.
It is his job. Yeah, Paolini Garment. Check him out. Quick plug for him. I would say, man, this makes me feel arrogant. I would say probably 85% of the time, I'm a sharp-dressed dude. I don't take days off.
I mean, Adam could put on a T-shirt and a hat and still be the coolest guy in the world.
Because I'll bring my fur coat for the
that would have been good. But that leads me to my walk-off question, because you have a little bit of those elements of Renaissance man, most interesting man in the world, because you've got your hands in so much, and because you're so curious, because you're so open-minded, which I think plays perfectly to your role with diversity and inclusion. Give me a dream spot you would like to visit in the world.
Ooh, dream spot I would like to visit in the world. God, that's a really tough question. I was not ready for that. I think I would like to go to Mecca. And it's not for any like religious practice or belief or anything like that. It's just like, I love going to places that are so old and that are like the cornerstone and bedrock of like culture. And like, this is where it began. This is the genesis of something. And I would love to go there and just be around that culture and experience that. The unfortunate truth is nobody's traveling right now. Like, you know what I mean? Everybody's sticking around here, but I love to travel. That would be one of my dream places to go to. And I've heard Greece is pretty cool. Never been, heard it's awesome. I would love to go there just for nothing else, just to get on some cool water and get on a boat and drift around the seas, which would be great for me. So
sign me up, bring some good wine, and you've got quite a trip there. So I think I can say, and I'm not the least bit surprised, that Adam has been one of the most interesting and fascinating guests that I have had. Most importantly, beyond all the interesting endeavors and the wine, CaseyMac.com, is that you're making an impact in the world, in this community with Barkley and so much else. So I want to congratulate you on all of your success. So much more to come. It's always good to see you.
Yeah, man.
You are not a failure in teaching me Spanish. I am a failure in my lack of effort, but I'll take the free meal like those guys in New York any single time.
Hey, anytime you want to jump on a call and do a quick lesson, you let me know, brother. Pro bono. I got you.
I want the steak though, too.
Oh, come on, man. That's behind me. Hey, if—before I go, my friends, when I left my job at Teach for America, they made me a T-shirt that said "Steaks for Strangers," and it had established 7/5/16 the day I started at Teach for America. So, it was all in good fun. It was pretty funny. But
you are a good man, my friend. Adam Miller, thanks so much for joining, and congratulations on the new role of Director of Inclusion, Diversity and Inclusion at Barkley. Thanks for doing it.
Thanks a lot, Joel. Take care, man.
All right. Adam Miller, great to visit with him. That's going to do it for another episode of Rounding the Bases. Shout out to my sponsors, Kansas City Audiovisual, Kissick Construction, and Enterprise Bank and Trust. People and businesses often come to Enterprise Bank because they are worthy of more than just the status quo, and they need a local partner who understands their business. Appreciate their support. You can reach me at joelgoldbergmedia.com. Thanks for listening to Rounding the Bases, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. #NoStoppingYou. My name is Joel Goldberg. Hope to catch you next time.